Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Peak Human. I'm Brian Sanders. Make sure to go start back at episode 1. Listen to all the old episodes. Like I always say, share with friends and family. Give us a review on iTunes. Thank you so much for that. I'm about to head out on our last filming tour for Food Lies. I'm going to the West Coast. I'm going to 4 cities, and I'm ending at Low Carb Denver. Great conference. A lot of great people there. Come say hi. Get a ticket if you can. They gave me a discount code. It's LCD 2023 Sanders. Get 10% off your tickets. They invited me out for free. I'm not making any money off this. I just want to help get people there to the conference. Come hang out, see me, see everyone there. It's super fun. You don't have to be low carb to go. It's just about metabolic health and real foods and pro animal foods, which is what I'm all about. So we'll be doing that, getting our last interviews. I just sent out some information in our newsletter about the film, about this film series. So check out the newsletter, sapien.org. Just subscribe to the newsletter each week. Just a quick email, relevant info, good content. Stay up to date with everything. Get the new podcast that comes out and some other cool stuff. So also check out nosetail.org. Always got to mention my company. This is how all this stuff is possible. We support great ranchers. We support other small businesses that help us do our products, and we get them out to you. Just the best stuff. Like our beef, our ranchers have been doing regenerative ag for decades. Grandpa Ham started 30 years ago. So go to nosetail.org, get the primal ground beef, get all the pasture-raised pork, the good stuff. No corn, no soy, organic diet. All the top-end regenerative stuff. This is great for supporting the ranchers, supporting the animals, supporting the land, and supporting your health. It's the 4 wins. Check out our other stuff there, body care products. We got deodorant made from beef tallow. No weird ingredients in it. You don't want aluminum. Do not put regular deodorant, aluminum on your body every day. It's bad. I did mineral analysis and I had high aluminum back in the day. Don't do it. It soaks up into your body. Your body does not know what to do with aluminum. There is zero amount that is good for you. Same thing with mercury and a few other of these heavy metals. You do not want them. So, super clean body care products made from beef tallow, nosetail.org. Get the other stuff there, like the biltong, which is the air-dried beef, no curing agents, no sugar. Great stuff. Thanks for supporting us. We really do care about our products and want to get people the best stuff possible. So make your own box, nosetail.org. We have some free shipping options or discounted shipping. Check it out. Also check out Element, LMNT. This is the great electrolyte mix that I use when I play beach volleyball. I use it when I do a sauna. I use it because I use a lot of electrolytes. A lot of people are depleted in these electrolytes. It's potassium, magnesium, sodium. You need these when you sweat. A lot of people are just deficient in them in general. Element, they're friends of mine. They make a good product. They make it really easy to use. You just put the packet in water and you're done. It mixes well. It tastes good. And it helps you get hydrated. A lot of people are just chugging water and actually diluting the minerals in their body. They're getting less and less electrolytes the more water they drink. Some people can get it all with diet. If you're getting tons and tons of minerals from your diet, you may be okay. If not, maybe you need more. So I support Element. They support me. You can go to Drink Element. That's drinklmnt.com/peakhuman and get a free sample pack when you make an order. I like their stuff, so check it out. Also want to talk about my guest today, John Jaquish. He's a scientist, inventor, and author. Dr. Jaquish has spent years researching ways to improve health and well-being. As a principal of Jaquish Biomedical, he created a bone density building medical technology, OsteoStrong, and the variable resistance machine X3 bar for skyrocketing lean muscle growth. The X3 bar is very cool. I got one now at the Sapien Center, and I've been using it, and it does what I want it to do, variable resistance. This is how I've designed my workouts forever. I talk about my workouts before. It's drop sets to failure using dumbbells, using compound movements. This is a way to try to fatigue your muscles, especially at the furthest most point in your lift. This is the very efficient way to work out and build muscle. So check it out. Use the code SAPIEN. They're giving a big discount to people if you use the code SAPIEN. It's not a cheap product, but it's portable. It works well. I think it's great. Talk about a lot of things. Dr. Jaquish is great. He's a hilarious guy. He's kind of trolling people I just want to warn people. He's some foul language. He's kind of trolling people. He likes to troll weightlifters and say that bodybuilding is a waste of time. And he says that weights are a waste of time. And at the end of the show, he's like, yeah, I kind of do it as a bit. I troll people. So he understands that lifting weights is good, but he also understands that X3 is super efficient and it's super good product. And I believe that. So yeah, use the discount code SAPIEN. Check it out. Enjoy this one with Dr. Jaquish, and I hope you have a good week. And I'll see you next time. Hey, we're live with Dr. Jaquish. How's it going?
It's great. It's pronounced Jaquish,
Jaquish.
like Jake hyphen wish.
Jaquish. I was so
Well, it's
close.
okay. You only read it. Like you
Yeah,
rarely ever hear me say my name.
I was so close. At least I didn't say Jaquish. I knew it wasn't Jaquish. So,
Right.
Dr. J, what is your PhD in?
Biomedical engineering.
Awesome. So, yeah, I guess we've been following each other on Instagram for a while, and we finally connected here.
Yeah, like years.
Years. Yeah, no, I love when some of your posts, some of your comments on my posts. It's great that we're on the same page here on a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, same with you. We're both seeing the same kind of meltdown of science, and I mean, I suppose it's always been going on, where snack food companies have been manipulating outcomes in studies for a long time, and you get the bad advice, the wrong advice. Um, Probably one of the best examples of that is, boy, for I don't know, like my entire childhood, I heard people tell me breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and we all
Hmm.
know that was written by the Kellogg's marketing department.
Hmm.
But yeah, like we are completely surrounded by bad advice, um, bad advice to sell products, and most of it harms us.
Well, yeah, it's almost like someone needs to make a documentary about this all. Now, yeah, it's been a long journey. People know my story. 6 years been making this film. It's going to come out this year. Working on it a lot,
Mm.
but yeah, it's great to talk to you today about some of this food stuff and some of the strength stuff. People probably know you from the X3 bar and
Yeah,
yeah, that you're a
most people
biomedical
do.
engineer and you've developed some products over the years, including this one. So yeah, maybe we should just start with yeah, just your story, your background. I mean, you weren't always like a large muscle bound dude.
No, I put on pretty much all the muscle I have after turning 40 years old. Um, Now, I mean, I'll start with I got into life sciences because of my mother. My mother was diagnosed with osteoporosis, and I wanted to help her. And so she read the side effects of the pharmaceutical solutions, wanted nothing to do with that. And I mean, I read them too, and I didn't blame her. So I went for a different approach. I went to develop a physical medicine approach, like triggering the body to fix itself. And that to me should always seem like the default. But one of the problems is you can't patent the human body. So, but you can patent a drug really well. So that's why the solution by modern medicine is always one that's profit driven, um, unfortunately. So um, now I did figure out a way to patent a physical medicine device. And it was just a very unorthodox approach. And when I did my PhD a number of years later, my PhD advisor said to me, you would have talked yourself out of this 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 invention if you had gotten your education first,
Mm.
because it's so different, such a like completely different way of thinking from modern medicine. And it was a series of devices that would put axial force. So, like, this is the axis of a bone. So, like, running from my elbow to my shoulder, the length of the bone. Um, I took I took axial loading, which is what we go through when we absorb high impact force. So I want to emulate high impact and then take out the risk. So make it safe, but get the loading of high impact. So it was very slow and controlled loading in just the positions we would normally absorb high impact forces. So when I did that, created some prototypes, opened an office, started working with people that had osteoporosis. I mean, there was no FDA approval or anything at this point. I had to disclose that. But I did get quite a few people to volunteer to check it out for me. And I reversed my mother's osteoporosis. Within 6 months, she was at normal bone and just a little under normal bone. And another year after that, which is when she got her next DEXA scan, she was bones of a 30-year-old,
Mm.
and she was in her 70s. So she went from having bad bone density to having like superhuman bone density. And so I knew I really had something. And so then I filed all the patents and started to develop the business. And now there's 260 clinics in 12 different countries.
I love it. My story starts with
Yeah.
my mom too, you know? It's like my mom and dad and their health, you know, problems. And that's so cool that you took it on yourself and rejected modern medicine. I'm glad that she was open to that too. So that your first advice, so I
Yeah.
have your book here. Yeah, it's funny that it's called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. Which I kind of get it because I say cardio is a huge waste of time, which is actually the subheading of your book. And
Yeah.
w-
Cardio's completely does not give you what you think you're getting.
we're
It
gonna
does something
oh,
for
yeah.
you,
I mean, it's
but it's
fine.
not
I
what you
mean, I
think.
guess it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna tell people to not go, you know, run if they wanna run, but
Oh, I do.
well, I sprint or I walk. I
No.
sprint or I walk.
Yeah. We are creatures that are really good at sprinting. We're really good at walking. That in between is like not something we would ever really do.
I I agree. I agree. We'll have to go into
Yeah.
that later.
Yeah. Sure.
I wanna kinda start from the beginning a little bit because the device, you know, I read about the beginning of the book talks about your mom and the OsteoStrong, is that what it's called? The
Yeah.
invention, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, just go into a little bit more about that and how she did, reverse that osteoporosis.
Yeah. Started using the device. It just it worked really well. Now it doesn't work for everyone because it requires effort. Like it's not like radiation therapy where you're getting the
Mhm.
radiation whether you accept it or not. It's still something that someone needs to apply to themselves, and it's voluntary force. So basically, you're in a fixture, and like the upper extremities is a little easier to show in video. So here's my arm, and I've got a 120-degree angle right here
Mhm.
between my upper and lower arm, back of the hand in line with the clavicle, and I go and push away from myself. In this position, I can create 7 times the amount of force that I can back here. So when looking at that, at how we are super capable in that impact ready range of motion, and how we are really hardly capable at all when we're in our weaker range of motion, I was like, wow, I mean, this probably explains why I've been lifting weights for 20 years and haven't got anything out of it. Like, like this is so symbolic as to how inefficient and therefore ineffective weight training is. So it was in the development of the bone density device that I came to the conclusion that weightlifting is a waste of time. Now, it's not a waste of time compared to nothing.
Mhm.
Like I would never tell somebody who's lifting weights like, it's not gonna really do much for you. Just sit on the couch and rot
Well, yeah,
away.
there's millions of people
Um,
who've developed a lot of muscle on weightlifting.
really? Millions? I don't know, man. I don't think so. Because everybody that I know that has an impressive physique or visible abdominals has a supplement contract. Like literally everyone I know that's in good shape is like sponsored by the industry. I don't think there's really that many people in great shape. I think 99% of people who go into gyms, uh, they can work out for 10 years straight and they look the absolute same, just maybe a little older by about 10 years. I mean, I
What?
like, and the reason for that, and that's probably the most interesting thing that X3, my next product, shines the light on. um, most most people don't get any results, but then every once in a while, sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
It's all good.
First cold I've had in years.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so most well, no, let me back up. I went to high school with this guy named Mark, and when we started freshman year, he was about 10 pounds heavier and about 2 inches shorter than me. So he was a little stockier, but we were roughly similar. Started working out together. I think through the course of high school, he might have put on 50 pounds of muscle. And whereas I put on, I don't know, 10 pounds because I got a little taller and maybe a little musculature, not much though. So I look at Mark, and the guy was by our senior year, he was benching 405 for like 6 or 7 repetitions, like absolute mutant strength. And he was a friend of mine, so I'm asking him like, "What else are you doing?" Like we eat the same because we ate together sometimes. I know he eats. We work out the same intensity, same amount of sets, same amount of reps. Um, I get a decent amount of sleep, so that can't be it. Like, and the guy says, honestly, like, I don't know. He's like, I, in fact, I eat worse when I'm not around you. Um, so it like I just can't explain it. It just I just grow, and so that always bothered me. Like, and these are the people who end up in the NFL. The people who effortlessly put on muscle when they're super young, and so they can do things that even compromise their muscular growth, and it doesn't matter because they're just machines that build muscle. So I it was a spare time project, just something I always wondered about. Would always, I mean, there was no Google back then, but I was just like, someday I'm going to figure out why the hell that guy can put on muscle so easily. I figured it out. It's the last chapter of the book. Talks about the genetic differences between very athletic people, elite athletes, and non-athletes or people who try to be athletic and don't really get anything out of it. Turns out that some people, less than 1% of the population, are born with a mutation in where their tendons attach to the bone structure. So, for example, like if I stick, here, let me do it this way. If I stick my arm out, the origin of my pectoral is on the sternum, is in the middle of my body, right in the middle of my chest. The insertion is typically right underneath the bicep, so
Hmm.
like right in here. And so it's connected to the humerus bone, and the pectoral brings the humerus bone toward the body, toward the midline of the body. So whether I'm pressing or whether I'm doing like a crossover type movement, that's how you get. I mean, that's how you make it, contract. That's how you. And the more intense the contraction, the shorter the muscle becomes, which is why I'm always encouraging people to go close grip with bench press. I mean like shoulder width. I don't mean like together like
Hmm.
this, but you a more narrow spread. Because the people who are just out here, they're just shortening their range of motion. So they think they're stronger, but it's really more like a trick so that you can like use more weight, or at least think you use more weight. Um, so anyway, um, in the whole process of understanding these tendon layouts, I came across some examples of specifically NFL players who, instead of having their insertion be at the top of the bicep, it was on the other side,
Hmm.
down here, which means they've got a lever inside their body. So when they go to engage their pectoral, they can engage it to a much greater degree than I can whenever they train. So every time they train, also this lever is elastic because it's tendon, right? And so tendons are very elastic, the most elastic thing in the body. So in essence, people with this genetic mutation, they're doing variable resistance. They're training with bands inside their body.
Mm.
They don't even know it. Everything they do is variable resistance as their musculature perceives it. But that's just the perception of the muscle because of where the tendon is attached. So, okay, this makes these people makes it very easy for them to gain muscle and become elite athletes. Whereas the rest of us, like I said, 99.5 or 99.9% of the population, they work out constantly. And, if they're skinny guys, they just stay skinny. If they're fat guys, they just stay fat. Or they can lose the fat, but still no muscles coming on. And so this is what I find to be so bizarre. In fact, this is one of the points I make that Dr. Baker really likes. He says, "Yeah, you are right. The majority of people who commit themselves to fitness, like vast majority, they'll work out and it's good for them, but they don't develop anything." And so now that I had that information, when looking at variable resistance was just obvious. Like there were 2 points. One is because of the research that I had been doing with my medical device, I knew I was 7 times stronger at full extension than, at full extension
Hmm.
than I am back here. On top of that, knowing that it's the variance applied inside of the body to these more athletically inclined people, that was like, it was just absolutely obvious. Like, well, we need to be training with variable resistance. We can get all the benefits of the most gifted people, whereas with weights, we can't do anything. And that was sort of the thesis of the book. And all my other work was really just looking at how some can apply incredible forces to the body by varying the resistance, and they grow so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to explain to people, variable resistance training is a general concept that the X3 uses, and it's a different
Right,
style of resistance training that is almost kind of the opposite. Because if you're doing regular weightlifting, it's easiest. The weight is the easiest at the end of the motion, and with variable resistance training, it's the hardest. Maybe you can explain a little
right.
better how that works.
So with variable resistance, you want to try to have the resistance change so that you're dealing with more weight in positions where you're stronger, and you're dealing with less weight in positions where you are biomechanically inefficient. This leads you to a much greater level of muscular fatigue because you're just using more of the muscle. Then greater fatigue will yield a greater growth response.
And weightlifting, you're kind of limited by your weakest range of motion. So you can't.
100%. Yeah, you pick a weight that you can handle in your weakest range. So, really, the only growth you're stimulating is the small amount of muscle that you're engaging in the weaker range, which is hardly anything. And this is why so many people lift and all those people don't get anything out of it.
So,
because they're not firing very much.
so what about the people who are getting a decent amount? Are they just using some of these resistance training techniques throughout their lifting? You know what I mean? Like if like cables just do.
I don't think anybody accidentally applies variable
Well,
resistance.
no. Well, some
Oh,
people I've seen people like some people like they'll do different versions of it. I guess not a lot, but they even hang chains from the bench. They'll put bands.
yeah,
I mean, there's some things. I mean, cables. Just do cables help a little bit?
no. Cables are just uh, the same as you're lifting a weight. It just is going through a pulley doesn't change the resistance in different positions, unless that one of those pulleys happens to be a cam instead of a pulley, like with Nautilus equipment.
Mm. What about
So
yeah?
Nautilus equipment did apply variable resistance, except they'd have like X amount of force at the bottom and 1.2x at the top. Whereas with my product, with X3, it's X amount at the bottom and 5x at the top.
Hmm.
So it's a much, much steeper curve.
Hmm. What about those machines? So I've used in Austin. They have the company ARX, and it is a
Yeah.
variable resistance training machine that pushes back on you. What do you think about those?
Very cool. I've used it. It's if you want to spend $400,000 for an X3, it's great.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like basically they went to solve the same problem that I had solved in the most expensive way possible.
yeah.
In fact, I haven't checked in with the company in a while. I think to get the upper body and the lower body machine, each of them are $10,000 a month, and you can only rent them. They don't sell their equipment. So I mean, you're paying $20,000 a month. Like that's like a helicopter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just like staggering amount of money, and X3 does the same, which is $550. So now it's not computerized.
Hmm.
I mean, there is computer feedback with the ARX, but I mean, if you can have an X3 that could give you computerized feedback, like I might be able to pull that off for $1,000, not you
Yeah.
know $20,000 a month.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I mean your X3 is like a very elegant solution. It's you can take
Yeah,
it
it's
places.
simple, it's
Yeah.
elegant.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Even though I don't own one yet. Maybe we can get some for the Sapien Center. I got a workout outdoor workout kind of area, and
Don't worry, I had a plan of sending you one.
okay, good. Yeah, no, because your chief
Yeah,
marketing officer Brennan came over to the Sapien Center. He happened to be in Austin,
yeah,
and let me try it. Well, I've seen him for years. Like I know Sean Baker. I've been Paul Saladino's house. He had one. Like all the guys I know seem to be using them and find great effectiveness with them. I love it. Just the
yeah,
concept in general, not that I've used it a lot yet, but because I'm all about the effectiveness and efficiency and that, I come this from the engineering perspective, that kind of translates into the food stuff that we could probably talk about for a second is nutrient. It's like nutrient density is like the key to health because it's so efficient, right? Like you're doing sprinting is efficient. It's like the fastest way to get results.
right,
That using variable resistance training, fastest, most efficient way to get results. The food, fastest way to get results. It's even more than just fastest way to get results. Your body wants nutrients and protein and vitamins and minerals. And if you don't give it nutrient dense, like basically efficient food, you're just going to eat too much extra energy, extra trash, which is
yeah,
basically all foods out there. And you're just going to gain weight.
yeah,
So I guess we can transition to food stuff. What is your
yeah, sure.
diet philosophy?
I primarily eat only meat. Um, I noticed about 6 months in after I had launched X3 that everyone who used it right was succeeding, which you could never say that about weight training. Like I said, weight training, 99% of people get nothing. So No, it's funny. I get so much hate for that
Mhm.
statement, but then you look at the picture of the angry guy, and it's like, okay, you're a perfect example. Like nobody would ever know you work out, and you're like all about it. Like your whole social media is like, you know, I'm at the gym today. Like then they post that like every day,
Mhm.
and you're like, yeah, well, if you weren't posting about it, nobody would ever know. It's just kind of a sad situation, and I think people they're just confused as to where their results are going to come from. It's sort of like if I keep repeating the thing that doesn't work for years and years and years, eventually one day I'm going to wake up and I'll look just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it's just like that does not work that way. But that's the attitude that they have. It's so funny. Like the angriest people at who troll me for the title weightlifting is a waste of time. They're all people who never really got any
Hmm.
results. And every once in a while, there was like some fat guy a couple days ago that's like, my arms are 20 inches in diameter. It's all from weights. The guy had like a 75-inch
Mm.
waist, and I'm like, what? Like, you got to be polite to a guy like that. So, all I did was just took a screenshot of his profile picture so everybody could see it big, and then I posted that as a
Mhm.
response. No words, just a picture of himself as he's bragging that he has 20-inch arms. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you got 20 inches of
Mm.
fat.
So, okay, well, so back to the food stuff. So yeah, tell me more.
Um, so the pro oh yeah, the reason people were failing was I'd be like, how much protein are you getting? And they'd all have the same response. Oh, I get tons of protein, like 50 grams a day. And then you're like, okay, yeah, you might want to like multiply that by 5.
Mhm.
That'd be good. So when I start telling people 1 gram per pound of body weight, we have I think, a slightly better number now, which is 0.82 uh, grams per pound of body weight, because there's just been a newer meta-analysis as of a few months ago,
Mhm.
but still roughly 1 gram per pound. I mean, having it be 18% less with the newer recommendation, that's helpful. But when I was telling 200-pound guys they need 200 pounds of protein, they were really upset by that. Like, well, how the hell can I get that amount of protein? That's crazy. Now, I had always been eating a lot of meat. Like, I've been on a low carb diet. Like, the problem is when you eat carbs, they take up space in your intestines. And especially if you want to get a fasted benefit, so you're eating less meals, like, there's no room. Like, you need so much protein in your system, there's no room for anything else. Like, unless you just want to be eating all day long, and that's just going to make you fat. So I I developed Fortigen to address part of this issue. So um, bacterial fermentation sourced essential amino acids. So you take a dose of this, and it becomes 50 grams of complete protein that's 100% usable when it enters the body, because the body takes the essential amino acids and then it manufactures itself via autophagy. It actually pushes you into autophagy faster. It makes the balance of the other, um, whatever, 12 amino acids that are needed to make a complete human protein. So very little goes a long way when you have this bacterial fermentation product, Fortigen. So I get like 150 grams of protein value per day by consuming 3 doses of Fortigen. And then so now I only have another 100, which I get like a pound of chicken or steak, or I don't really like
Mhm.
pork because it takes a long time to digest. But I mean, pork's not a bad source of protein at all. I just eat
Mm-hmm.
less of it because it just feels like a bowling ball in my stomach. And if you eat a pound of it, you know, it's like you like the first 8 ounces,
Yeah.
but the second 8 ounces, not as good.
So, are you still doing OMAD? I know you were doing that at least for some point.
Yeah, yeah. Most days, yes. I got married recently. That
Mhm.
didn't. No, my wife's in fantastic
Mhm.
shape, but she is definitely a
Mhm.
saboteur of OMAD. Yeah,
Yeah.
she definitely. She'll say I'm doing one meal today, but then right around like 1 o'clock, it's like God, gotta eat
Yeah.
something. And so I think guys are better at one meal a day
Mhm.
than women are. I think women are a little more driven. Now she doesn't eat carbs, so it'll be an all protein meal. I think the quality of the food that you eat is much more important than the quantity. Yeah, I never never got anybody who knew anything about nutrition to disagree with that. Like, um, just keep everything high quality. And she takes
Mm.
Fortigen too, so it allows you to more in a more easy way be at a calorie deficit through your fasting or just counting calories. But then at the same time, um, because you get 150 grams covered with very low calorie impact, and amino acids, they're not complete proteins, so they actually don't have a caloric value at all. So it's one of those things where the FDA says you cannot label it via you can't label the fragments of protein as having a calorie value because they're not energy. They're components of energy. So really, you take Fortigen, it's actually a negative
Hmm.
calorie impact because it's forcing your body to make the rest of the amino acids to complete the protein chain.
Yeah.
So you're taking more away from the body, more energy away from the body by digesting Fortigen than the Fortigen actually is.
Yeah. Proteins, yeah. Proteins
Yeah,
almost like that, but not really. But yeah, I mean, you take calories just to digest protein, and it doesn't really. Yeah,
yeah.
there's studies on it. It doesn't contribute to weight gain, basically.
All right, the thermogenic
Yeah.
effect of food,
So, and then tell me about the
and
studies about
protein is
fasting
just
because
dynamite.
I mean, I've been in and out of fasting or just intermittent fasting. I don't do extended fasts, but there's actually like a muscle sparing effect. And you actually, I remember in the book talking about how there is some muscle growth associated with fasting. Like some of these could, yeah, like trigger
Mm,
more muscle growth.
anabolic
Yeah.
rebound. That's right. Yeah, you come off of a fast, and it's almost like your body says, "All right, it took a long time to get this meal, but we're going to help you extra and make you stronger so you can catch your next meal easier." It sure seems like that because looked at a study, and basically one of my key guys, his name's Henry Alkire. He's the second author on the book. Um, Brilliant guy. You never see him publicly. He's not, he doesn't care for public speaking. But I called him one day and I said, the more I fast, the faster I grow. I got an idea. And he says, what is it? I said, I want you to read every study you can find on fasting versus calorie restriction. So they have to have two cohorts. If it's fasted group versus another fasted group, just trying to figure out which style is more efficient. I don't care for that. But um, see if you can find one of these studies, and I want you to read the discussion section. So do a literature review. You probably get 100 studies. do a word search as soon as you identify these studies in the discussion section about an unexplained gain of muscle. And he says, wow, that's really
Mhm.
specific. I'd say the chances of me finding that are pretty close to zero. I said, you're right. But what I'm noticing is I grow faster the more I fast. Doesn't make sense. Why would eating less make me grow more muscle? And so about 15 minutes later, he's like, this is the first study I grabbed. And I read the discussion section. It said exactly what you predicted. And I'm like, all right, like he sent it to me. And then, we kind of read it together over the phone. And what it said was fasting group versus non fasting group. The fasting group lost a little bit more weight and kept it off versus the calorie restriction group. So that's to be expected. Um, that's one of those studies that, like, Lane Norton will pretend didn't happen. Um,
And this is isocaloric. So with the
so,
same calories, if you're just eating them in a smaller window,
yeah,
it's more. Yeah. Yeah.
same calories. So, what then was said was that the individuals who were fasting, they gained an extra 6 pounds of muscle during the study. Of course, the calorie restriction group lost a little bit,
Hmm.
like a pound, like nothing to cry about. Like you get that back. But gaining new muscle, and these were, just sort of untrained people who, by the way, did not
Hmm.
work out at all. Nobody worked out, neither control or test group. 6 pounds of muscle from not working out, like I'm thinking, I worked out for 20 years with regular weights and I never gained 6 pounds. And these guys did it in 20 weeks? Really? So my theory was correct in that when the body comes out of a fasted period, you're much more anabolic. So, like, if you want to be anabolic, you got to be catabolic first. And it was an interesting discovery. All the details are in the book. I spent about 11 pages talking about it, and many different quotes from that study that I pulled out of there. It was just a really important one, and I don't like the nutrition trend where people want all their advice summarized in a meme. Like it's like they get a meme and it just says eat less, move more, and they're like, all right,
Hmm.
I'm all set. I'm gonna, Mr. Olympia, I'll enter the contest in 6 weeks. And you're just like, okay. I mean, like, just saying calorie restriction, that's not it. That's so oversimplified. I mean, oversimplification is another word for
Yeah.
wrong. So, I mean, do calories matter? Yeah, they matter, but that's not the whole story at all.
Well, not at all. So it doesn't account for protein for one thing. It doesn't account for
Right.
like satiety. It doesn't account for real life. Like if people don't want to overeat calories, right? No one wants to, but they all do. So
Right.
why? So that's because you're not.
Yeah, because they
Yeah,
choose addictive
you're
foods.
choosing the wrong foods. So all calories aren't the same. It's almost like obvious that it's like by default what we see
Yeah.
in the world is that it does they aren't the same, or else everyone would.
But remember, we live in
Oh yeah.
clown world. So it's not like obvious means anything anymore. Obviously we were lied to about COVID. Yet there are people who would light themselves on fire and die to show their commitment to believing in all of the bullshit we were told. I mean, like, I was at the hospital last night checking on a friend, and it was a Kaiser location in California, and they were like, "Oh, sir, you need to wear a mask." And it wasn't like it was a busy time in the hospital. It was like
Mhm.
7 o'clock at night, and I go, these don't do anything, right? And the guy looks at me and he goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, yeah. The research has been out for a long time."
Mhm.
I'm like, You can prove it to yourself because he was wearing a mask. I said, just hold your cell phone screen up to the to by your mouth and breathe through the mask on the cell phone screen. If you see steam on the cell phone screen, you know COVID's going right through it because the COVID particle is smaller than a water particle.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's like, wow. And then I showed him on, clearly I wasn't in a hurry. I showed him the warnings on a lot of the boxes. It says, these masks do not provide any protection from airborne pathogens and viruses, including but not limited
Mm-hmm.
to COVID-19. Says it on the fucking box. And it's just now they must have changed, they must have protected these mask companies in some way because now they're
Mm.
taking it off. They're taking the warning off, which is just another point of criminality of the medical establishment. Just outright fucking lying. But all of this was just fear theater. It was just meant to scare people into compliance, scare people into doing what they're told. Obedient little citizens. Um, that's great if you live in China and that's what you were born with. You do what the government says or you disappear. People in China, they don't really care. They're like, it's life. Um, but growing up in America, no, that's not life. That's tyranny. And we're taught to fight that, which is why we have a Second Amendment. So, it's a rotten situation we're in. But back to the clown world thing, people want to hear
Mm-hmm.
what they want to hear, way more than they're willing to accept the hard truth of, like you should eat less carbohydrates. So when I first started my company, well, my company had actually existed years before that, from on the bone density front. But when I launched X3, it was the first time I was going direct to consumer because basically OsteoStrong is sold to entrepreneurs and medical professionals in form of a franchise. So they build the franchise and attract the clients or ask the physicians in their area to refer patients. So I didn't really need a public presence, but I go to launch X3 and I definitely need a public presence. I need to be the example. I need to be the out of shape 40-year-old guy
Mm-hmm.
who gets in shape while using this outrageously superior strength training device. And I did that, but I got death threats pretty much every day in the beginning. And people were like, how dare you attack weightlifting? Like they acted like it was their religion. And I thought, like, shouldn't you be open minded for something better? Like, is the point of working out just that you like working out? Just so you can talk about it? Or are you trying to get a result? Because if you're trying to get results, you should probably read what I'm writing. And the answer is they didn't want an answer. They just wanted to protect what they believed was right. People like to be right. They like to be right more than they like to understand, even if it's at the expense of their health.
Well, yeah.
So as soon as I started, so I went about 6 months before giving any nutrition recommendations. I started saying you really need to eliminate or severely limit carbohydrates. I started getting death threats again. And guess what everybody looked like who's giving me death threats? They're all obese. Like, you're going to kill people with your advice. You don't need carbohydrates to
Mm-hmm.
survive at all. The amount, in fact, I think this is a direct quote from the FDA's nutrition guidelines from their last handbook in 2005. Apparently, the guys at Kellogg's didn't proofread this part, but it said the amount of carbohydrates required to live for a human to live is zero. Nothing essential about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you've read that same line of text.
I remember.
Yeah. They've taken it out since, but they never
Mhm.
said that it was wrong. They just took it out, which is like again even more suspect. I'm sure one of their sponsors being Nabisco, Kellogg's, General Mills, everybody who creates snack food and cookies and candy is like, trying to get them to give these falsified recommendations
Mhm.
that help their business. And I think, God, there was just a study that came out the other day saying it was in, I think it was in
Mm.
JAMA. I think it was in Journal of the American Medical Association. It said that one meal a day, people who eat one meal a day are have higher all cause mortality. So like you eat one meal a day and you're going to die younger. And then you look into the details of these,
Yeah.
and you're like already laughing. Um, yeah, it's just like, wait, what? Like we have the ability to go without food. All the studies on fasting show healthier people with better insulin secretion, better insulin sensitivity. That's kind of a construct, but nonetheless, there's hard numbers. You secrete less insulin with the less meals you have, and with less carbohydrates. So I look at this study. The one meal a day people, over half of them
Mm.
were regular smokers. Yet the people in the other cohort weren't
Mm.
smokers at all. Now, why would they not control for that variable? They put it in the study. It's criminal to leave it out. So they put in the study, but it's like, well, maybe their all cause mortality was affected negatively because half of them were
Yeah.
smoking cigarettes all the time. Like I just don't, I'm not even going to like read the rest of the study here. Like it's just fraud. It's just a lie. So, and I see more examples of that than just about anything with
Well, yeah.
nutrition
That
research.
I think most people know that
Um,
all these studies are controlled. Man, I've gone down some rabbit holes and looked at over the years, so many things that we think are right are because of these studies that were designed to fail by the powers that be. It's crazy. And I
yeah,
mean, powers that be could just be the food company sponsoring them. It could be, yeah, just big interests.
yeah,
It's really crazy. Um, so really, so you're saying until you're 40, you were not putting on muscle, and so this you were
no,
trying, and then the variable the X3, the variable resistance was when that really turned.
yes, yeah. First year experimenting with the X3 prototype, uh, I gained 30 pounds of muscle.
Wow, I'm gonna have to get
Yeah,
on.
it was like, yeah, people saw me like a year later, like, fraternity brothers who see me every couple of years. All of a sudden I'm 40, about to turn 41, and they see me walking down the street and they're like, I almost just thought, like, oh, that guy looks a little bit like John. Like, I didn't even know it was you.
Did I think you talk about this story too, that about like testosterone, that you're like that's part of your journey is the replacement therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, I got replacement therapy at 28 because I just got a bad rugby hit, shoulder to the crotch. And I ended up with 168 nanograms to the deciliter of testosterone. And it was causing cardiac problems. I was having heart
Mm.
palpitations. And so they prescribed me testosterone to rebuild my cardiac muscle. And I was like, okay, testosterone steroids, and steroids are supposed to kill you via heart attack. Yet you're saying if I want to live a long and healthy life, I need to take this testosterone. And they were like, yeah. Only people that massively abuse testosterone put their hearts at risk. Like your heart needs testosterone. In fact, it has a higher density of testosterone receptors are in the heart than in any muscle of the body.
Wow.
So it's a healthy heart is highly dependent on testosterone, which should make people worry because testosterone is going down by about 30% per generation.
Yeah.
Like, like why is everybody low in testosterone? Well, um, garbage food, soy.
Yeah. Yeah. Plastics
We make
everywhere.
so many things out of soy. Like people are like excited about soy, and it's just like you have no clue what you're talking about.
Hmm.
Right?
Very
I mean,
estrogenic.
I'm sure I consume some soy, especially like last night I went to Vietnamese restaurant, and like you get the pho,
Hmm.
the noodles, and then the meat, and so I just eat the meat and I leave the noodles there. But a couple of the other things, a couple of the appetizers, they come with a sauce that's soy based. And you're like,
Well, at least it's fermented.
well,
That helps a lot.
yeah,
Soy sauce
that does.
fermented. So tell me more. So you started testosterone at 28, but didn't make the muscle improvements until later. So you're so
Right. Yeah. I don't think testosterone replacement itself is going to give you muscle. You have to have all three. You got to have the right hormones, which means they can't be screwed up. Basically, you got to treat that. You need the right nutrition. You need a gram per pound of body weight in protein, and like vegetable protein sources really don't count because they're only 9% usable by the body. Garbage. um, and like this is the kind of thing that like these are the studies that vegans ignore because they don't like the answers. So it's like, all right, well, make sure nobody posts about that on our website. Which is here we are again in clown world. Like, wow, I figured you guys would want the truth, but no, they want their religious eating pattern to be promoted. Um, and
so yeah, there's a protein side. You're saying the three sides. There's the protein.
all right, yeah. So it's the protein, it's the hormonal, and then it's the stimulation. Like, what's the stimulation? You're not one of those people who, um, just walks into the gym for the first time, and in the first, like, you put on 10 pounds of muscle a month for 6 months or something like that, like an NFL player. Okay, well, then we don't need to talk about variable resistance. But if you're not one of those people, and I think the fact that fitness is such a popularly discussed subject is a monument to the fact that it doesn't work for hardly anyone. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such incredible interest around
Mhm.
it. Like it would just be like a thing. Like um, there's not a big demand for websites about how to boil an egg and make a hard boiled egg.
It's just
Pretty straightforward. It's not like 99% of people get that wrong, which is why there's not hundreds of blogs about
yeah.
boiling eggs.
So you're kind of
Yeah,
saying
it's just people
there's a
get it.
certain gifted people like the NFL athletes and like just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, these famous bodybuilders, that these people
Yeah.
using weights, like the ones that we hear about and have success, are the genetically gifted, very, very few.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where, drugs, well, let's look, even with the drugs, still nobody has looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the guys doing bodybuilding now take way more drugs than Arnold's generation did because they didn't really know what would happen if they took too much of it, so they just stuck to the recommended doctor's dosage.
Uh-huh.
There's still never been anybody That's as good as
Well, they
ours.
look different than him. Yeah, I mean, they look
Yeah, they
like
got like
freakish.
huge guts, and that has to do with a combination of insulin and human growth hormone that actually
Yeah.
grows their intestines, because they're growing the tissues that are taxed, that are doing work. Well, if you're eating 5,000 calories a day because you're trying to maintain a 300-pound body weight, guess what's taxed even more than your muscles? Your intestines. So they're going to grow too. And that's why
Hmm.
these guys look like they swallowed a sea turtle, because like they have abdominals, but then they have this huge bulge just sticking out of their abdomen. That's what that is. Excessive
You're talking about
intestinal
Liver
growth.
King, or
Yeah, probably a little bit with the Liver King. Yeah.
um. So okay, so we got that part. So yeah, so after 40, you were still doing the same sort of regimen with the TRT.
Yeah. And then so I had the protein and I had the hormones. My training was just like everybody else's, fucking worthless.
Hmm.
And so as soon as I got my prototype, like I could see growth by, every couple of days I'd look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm more muscular. I'm leaner and I'm bigger. Like
So how do people use it? Like, what's the protocol? I believe it's like only 10 minutes per day.
it's 10
Is
minutes
that the
per
minimum?
day if you need very low rest times between exercises.
Hmm.
So you're supposed to catch your breath completely. So when like a slim guy does bicep curls, he puts the bar down after he's done, and he might have to breathe hard for 15 seconds, and then he's good.
Hmm.
The problem is when you take a guy like me, and I put my hand around my bicep, and it's that big
Yeah.
around. It takes a lot more blood and resources to engage that muscle and take it to fatigue. So, when I do a set of bicep curls, I'm gasping for air for minutes. So, you really just need to do it right. Like, if you're not that muscular, you can get through it in 10 minutes. If you are, it might take you 15 or 20.
Hmm.
But in taking those breaks, like I'm at my office today. I'll do a workout later. I'll let 5 minutes go in between
Mm.
exercises because you only do one set per exercise. But that full 5 minutes, I'm completely recovered, and then I can go to the next movement. Um, it's just because of where I am.
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
don't know anybody else that needs
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
minutes.
But so I've interviewed some other muscle scientists on this. I mean, like Keith Barr, Stu Phillips come to mind. They're talking
Yeah,
about this same type of concept of like you just need to get to failure in this one movement and you're done. That kind of
yeah,
concept,
yeah,
which is what I believe in. And it's like super efficient. Like get it to failure, you're done.
yeah,
It's like that's what your muscle needs, right? It needs to be told to get stronger, right? It's like you're
right.
demanding as much as you can from it. I guess what I took from the variable resistance training is that it's just just way more efficient way to get to failure, right? As one of the main things would be to just get there very, very efficiently. Is that part of it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The reason people do multiple sets with weight training is because the stimulus sucks. Like, how many sets do you need to do in the sunlight to get a suntan? Like I ask people that question, and they're like, "What? Like one? You just go out,
Yeah.
right?" Same thing with building a callus. You want to build a callus, a hard abrasion on the hand that's brief but very intense is going to give you the best result for building a callus. So, when it comes to training a muscle, why would we do multiple sets? Well, people started doing multiple sets because they weren't getting much out of one set. Well, guess what? They're not getting much out of 3 or 5 or 10 either. But they are creating muscle damage, which is inversely related with growth. So when people are saying, you just need to stimulate and then stop and let the body respond, they're right. But it's a harder thing to see when you're looking at something that has such a poor stimulus,
Mm.
like weightlifting.
Let's touch cardio too, because it's kind of that same concept. I mean, I've
Sure.
seen these people. I was in the same apartment complex for years in LA, looking at the same people come in the gym and do the same
Mm-hmm.
worthless cardio and never. I mean, they gained weight.
Yep.
So so yeah, just tell me more about cardio and why it's a waste of time.
Well, when you look at what cardio is, there's really no such thing. Um, Now, yes, we have aerobic versus anaerobic, but the question is why would you do aerobic? Like, what do you think you're getting out of it? You get more cardiovascular health out of resistance training. And variable resistance is even more efficient. But that's just health. So, like, for example, there's this really slim guy I used to travel with for business. Like, we did a lot of business in Moscow. And we'd fly out of London because we had an office together there. Um, London to Munich, and then Munich to Moscow. And this guy he was like a marathon runner, and he's really like skinny, like
Mhm.
just kind of emaciated. And when you're in Munich and you're switching flights, it's like it's like the worst designed airport ever. Like you have to run up and down the stairs like 6 times.
Mhm.
Like you go downstairs, you got to get your bags, you got to come upstairs, you got to go through immigration, then you go downstairs and you check your bags again, and then you go upstairs and they need to examine your passport one more time. Then you got to run downstairs. So it's all like staying with stairs. Um, so we're running usually because the connection's kind of tight, or like walking fast, and I'm like covered in sweat, right? I'm like out of breath, covered in sweat, and the guy's like, "Wow, you look like you're in really good shape, but maybe you're not. Like your cardio is pretty bad." And I'm like, "No, dumbass, my quads are 4 times bigger than yours are. It's a
Hmm.
bigger engine. Like a V12 burns more fuel
Mhm.
than whatever you would be, like a one-cylinder
Mhm.
lawnmower engine." Yeah, I was trying to like give him some shit.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, just like you're like, yeah, you're weak as hell, and you're a third my body weight. Yeah, you can float up and down the stairs all you want, but we're training for very different purposes. I'm training for power, for speed. Uh, you're training to be as light of a waif as possible, so you can go incredible distances on a low calorie number. And the body adapts. Like if you want to be an economy car, the car is actually a really good example because um, engine is the muscle, the frame of the car is the bone density. By the way, people who do incredible amounts of cardio, they lose bone density very quickly,
Mm.
and they usually don't get it back until they stop that habit. So it has been a weird journey with some of these people because they're very convinced that you can only get cardiovascular health through cardiovascular exercise. No, you get better cardiovascular health through strength training. So what's the benefit of doing specifically cardio? Well, if you want to be a distance athlete, that's really the only way to be a good one is by doing the thing that you're trying to perfect.
Yeah.
But you're stimulating the body to upregulate cortisol in a chronic manner. So cortisol does two things: gets rid of muscle. and protects and preserves body fat as long as possible. So it keeps you as fat as possible, as long as possible, and then it gets rid of your muscle. So when you lose weight from doing cardio, you're losing muscle only.
Yeah. Uh, I,
Yeah, it's just like distance runners, they don't realize, yeah, they might be skinny, but they're skinny fat. Like they have cellulite all over their legs, but their legs are thin. So yeah, like you got to understand what you're going for. You're trying to be a distance runner. If you're trying to be a distance runner, then you're going to look like a stick. And I mean, great, yeah, you might be great at that. I don't know what benefit that's going to be to you other than just ego, but good for you, I guess. But if you want if you want to be strong and lean, like heavy resistance, there's no getting away from heavy.
mhm.
Now you can have a better strategy at getting heavy, like with X3, so you get much better results, but you're not going to get around heavy.
I believe it. I believe it. I had
Yeah.
terrible body composition when I was doing cardio, and I was still trying to lift too. And yeah, yeah. Also, you have a lot of visceral fat too. Yeah, skinny fat basically
Yeah.
means yes, you could have all this fat in your insides, and also there's all the people that do the marathons and they like gain weight. It's like, oh, I trained for a marathon and I did it 3 months later. They do the marathon. They're like the same weight or a little heavier. Also, that's
Yeah.
just the foods. They're just eating a whole bunch of. They're thinking they need to like
Yeah.
carb load for it,
Trash. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyway, I think we've offended enough people for one
Yeah,
podcast.
probably. It's okay. I mean, I accept the haters.
It's
Um, it's well, Dave Asprey told me before launching X3, he said, "What's your market? What's your target market?" And I was like, "Oh, fitness people." He goes, "It's going to fail. Don't do that."
mm,
He says, "You're trying to make a scientific argument to fitness people." He says, "Now more bodybuilding than fitness, but when you look at fitness information, about half it's bodybuilding." He said, "These are the stupidest people on earth. They are so dumb. They will never understand what you're trying to tell them. You show them a study on something, and all they see is spaghetti on a page.
mm,
Like they can't. It's not that they're lazy, like they don't have the mental horsepower to be able to absorb that message." And I was like, Dave, I think you're kind of overreacting. He was so right.
mm,
So right. So immediately we pivoted and made the target market busy professionals. Made a lot of the talking points about time and efficiency. Sales went through the roof.
mm,
And Dave, I appreciate Dave to this day because um I don't it was just a hard thing for him to tell me. He and I are friends. And he told me that, and I took it to heart but didn't want it to be true because I don't know. I remember when I was in high school and I thought bodybuilding was cool. Like just treating your body like it's a piece of sculpture.
mhm,
I like that. Like that part of Pumping Iron where Arnold gives that speech, and I was like, yeah, that's cool.
mm,
Like I want to be a piece of sculpture. And but I mean, there are very smart people in the fitness industry. They're just drowned out. And like sports scientists, like we're gonna look at some of the sports scientists out there. There's profound research. Most of it I cite all the time. I got 260 citations, research citations in the book. The problem is the fitness industry is not capable of understanding what any of those studies are actually saying because they're written in an academic manner. The American College of Sports Medicine has a number of journals that they own and maintain. And they even came up with like one that was kind of more layman's terms. I don't want to say dumbed down because it was still
mhm,
good stuff. They just really wanted to go light on the statistics and report on what the statistics mean as opposed to,
mhm,
explaining how they ran, you know, whatever, an analysis of variance,
Yeah, yeah.
or a Spearman row test. Like, I know what a Spearman row test is, but like that's probably like 1 in 100,000 people know what a Spearman row test is. Um, so like they tried to do that and it completely fell flat.
Mm.
Nobody read this journal. And it's just because the level of intelligence just isn't there. I think most people treat the fitness industry as very transient. So they graduated from college, but they don't really want an adult job because they don't want to get up too early. So I'll be a personal trainer for a couple of years. But it's not like they're really into it. It's not their
Mm.
career. And it doesn't pay very well either. So I don't blame people for not taking it seriously. If you're a trainer now, there's also great trainers out there, but they are the few. The majority are just there to sell gym memberships and kind of hang out and make the building look like it's more occupied than not. So yeah, I don't think
Mhm.
I think the fitness industry as it is now is a grotesque failure
Mm.
of human effort. Like bizarre how much it's failed, and it needs to be reinvented, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be kind of like the food industry, where it's just
It's
a way to make money, and like I mean, if the food,
it's the other more fucked up. That was even more fucked
yeah.
up.
Well, it's like if it
Yeah,
worked,
like
I'm not saying that the whole fitness industry is totally bogus, but if it worked, it would work. You know what I mean? And people would see the results, and
yeah,
they wouldn't need it. But anyway, I think we just offended more people in this last little segment. But
sure did. As soon as you said that, I was like, wait a minute, I'm
hey,
gonna
get one
I'm
more.
gonna throw some more gasoline on this
All right.
fire.
Well, hopefully people, don't be offended by this. I hope my audience isn't offended by strong language or, you know, this type of stuff. I appreciate it.
I don't think they will because I see your fans'
Yeah.
comments. Your fans are pretty smart because you're presenting science. It's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you present intelligent information, you get intelligent customers. And guess what? Those are not the people that are on bodybuilding.com.
Well, I love my audience. They're awake. They're not woke. They're definitely not woke, but they are awake. They know what's going on in the world,
Mm,
and
that's good.
yeah, and you've been gracious enough to give us a code for the X3 we got for Sapien. If you use the
Oh,
code Sapien, people can get $50 off the X3 bar. So that's gonna be cool. I'm gonna get one myself, I guess, and I look forward to it. I really believe in the variable resistance training. Um, I guess I've never had one. I've never had an X3 bar, so excited about that. Um, yeah, where do people find you? I know you're on Instagram with a bunch of people.
yeah, I spend the most time on Instagram. Instagram is my favorite platform. I just think it's simple. Facebook they're changing it all the time and it's full of bugs. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes like it'll tell you your video file is too big and it's like
Uh-huh.
500K and you're like I've uploaded images that
Yeah.
were
Something's up with
you
Facebook.
know
It never works for me. It's always weird, but yeah.
yeah, a lot of bugs. When you get into the advertising
Uh-huh.
end, like if you advertise with Facebook, the ad manager software is just it's great, except it's just bristling with so many features, it becomes very
Mm.
hard to use.
Well,
Um,
Instagram.
but if yeah, so I focus on Instagram more. It's just cleaner.
Mhm.
Um, so my last name's tough, as
Yeah.
we discussed at the beginning of the podcast. So my website is the best place to connect with me. It's drj.com, DOCTOR, the letter J.com, and there's links to all my social, my YouTube. I'm going to start doing more on YouTube in the next few months.
Yeah. YouTube is good until I get strikes and almost got kicked off. But yeah, YouTube's okay. It's
Were you talking about the vaccine?
I was talking just yeah, so I was talking about some things with Dr. Gary and all of them got removed and yeah, he was just telling facts and experience. So that's a whole nother
Right.
story. Um But thanks.
Yeah, no different than Nazi book burning.
Yeah, we're living in a crazy world. It's a crazy world. I
Yeah,
reread 1984 during COVID, and it was
I did too.
yeah, it was a very interesting book. And
I mean, the book could be about like 5 years from now.
yeah,
Like, they should put that book out again and just call it, like, 2030.
yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and let me know when you're in Austin next. And good stuff.
Awesome.